and we're moving right in to round 2. We have Jonathan Anderson and Jon Chambers.
Jon
versus Jon.
Yep.
We're going to try and keep it straight here. We've got, in our first game, Palana Foods facing off against Valencia.
Ooh. And if you recall from yesterday, Jonathan was on the stream yesterday.
Yes.
And he was playing the Palana with teeth, I do believe.
Indeed. It looks like he's brought basically the same deck, just one minor change here, and that is the addition of an Enforcing Loyalty.
Nice.
Definitely an important card. We saw that in the game 1. Doing some work. Could be impactful here in round 2, but otherwise, it's just a deck that wants to spike you out.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna utilize some semi-taxing ice, I do believe,
yep.
and some binary gear checks. And beyond that, he's gonna use cards like Cerebral Overrider. He's gonna use snares, try to kill the opponent.
Wow. So Jonathan not taking any chances. Ices all 3 servers, preventing things like Temujin and Apocalypse from going off really quickly. And that's going to be pretty nice for him.
That was not a bad street pillar, was it? It was. I saw Daily Cast and Data Sucker on it.
Pretty good. And Jonathan, great read there. It looks in Jon's hand that he does have a Temujin contract in turn 1.
Yeah, it's a good call. It's definitely a good call. Unfortunately for Jonathan, I don't think any of his ice is super. I think it's mostly binary ice. I think I saw vanilla in there.
Yep.
But it still forces Jon to have the gear check.
Yeah, that being said, he really doesn't look like he has much in hand breaker-wise, so he may struggle to get Temujin online in the first few turns.
So what we got here, 1, 2, 3.
So Data Sucker, Daily Cast, and Liberated Counts.
Man, I think
sitting
the lib.
On
The
that
lib
is a
looks
loaded
good.
Street Peddler there, and nice call. Going to install that at a 1 credit discount. Pretty great for him there.
So handy. So handy.
So what kind of Valencia deck are we going to expect out of Jon here? We know Valencia, we saw yesterday, can go in many different routes for their influence package and their plan.
Right.
What has he gone with?
So Jon's actually from my local play group.
Yep.
And we spar quite often. If I recall correctly, his what we can expect from him is very similar to Travis's list from yesterday. He's going to have, I think, 3x Temujin, a full suite of breakers that include Yogg, Paperclip, and Mimic. Basically good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Val.
Hey, good stuff plus Temujin equals happy runner.
Yeah, it does.
I think that's a good way to go. A lot of economy and a bit of card draw coming out from Jon in this early game. Not bad at all. And if Jonathan doesn't apply any pressure in the early game, then both players just content to money up.
Yeah. And I think, oh, wow, Mill. I think Jon's definitely scared to face check. We saw yesterday Jonathan and his opponent both, suffered heavily from a Cortex lock.
Oh, absolutely. So. The random face check on R&D proving fatal for one player. But yeah, Cortex lock, huge card. And there's the draw of Enforcing Loyalty off the top. That's going to be pretty nice for Jonathan. He may have a couple really good targets, including Temujin contract. To keep Jon off his game there. So
Jonathan's probably thinking, I want a pizza. No, that's not what he's thinking. He's probably thinking, what's the right call here as far as a server to protect? He has no agendas in hand.
Sure.
So R&D's probably the right call. But it's a matter of, hey, maybe if I protect HQ, I force him to check over here.
Right. I mean, he really doesn't know what to expect.
Oh.
And Enforcing Loyalty is going to go out. No run required. That is going to be a double trace 3. And with Jon on only one credit, that is going to hit. We got a reader, Jon, investigating this rather new card there. And he's got some decent targets. What do you think Jonathan's going for? All right, Daily Cast.
Interesting. I would have thought he would have chosen the Earthrise Hotel for the momentum. But I guess Jon will be able to drip in money. Maybe he doesn't want him to have that advantage. Technically, he's still -1.
Right. I think, honestly, all 3 are really decent targets there, really valid choices. Same old thing, of course, could be used for recurring blackmails, which is really scary for Jonathan. But he does opt for the economy, and maybe he just thinks he can maintain that economic advantage in the early game.
It looks like, and unfortunately for Jonathan, Jon quickly finds another one.
Yep. He's slowed him down, but for a few turns. Salset Slums also coming off the top. That's going to be pretty nice. We talked about this yesterday. Salset Slums not only dealing with these large asset decks, but also dealing with traps like shocks and snares and preventing those from being used multiple times.
I mean, if we find that Sjohn just has to take the damage here and toss sets out, we could see that definitely help his game.
Yep.
Wow.
No question.
I think Jonathan just chuckled a little bit when he
Yeah,
saw that.
not so pleased at the daily cast off the top there, but yeah, definitely slowed down a fair bit.
I think maybe John's trying to make sure his hand's down to 5. Oh, is he going to do it? Is he going to play the all set? Is that the call here?
It is a pretty nice card.
He goes to 0, but the Enforcing Loyalty's already gone.
Yep.
And he's got that Liberated. He's got 4 on it.
And really, as Sjohn, I think you're okay
there it goes.
not having that many credits because with blackmail in hand, there's not much that Jonathan can do to push out agendas really easily.
Right.
Between blackmail and rumor mill, no caprice is really going to stop him.
And John's got to be really careful here with this celebrity gift. I think what he's thinking is he's got a Hokusai. That will tell so much about what his deck is doing.
Right.
And so if he celebrity gifts and shows that Hokusai, that could just say, hey, this is my plan. Hope you're ready.
Right, and I think this is an amazing, tense moment for both players. Both of their identities lend themselves to many different builds, and so I really think both players are just trying to feel out each other's decks and figure out what the game plan is going to be.
Yeah. And look, the second slum's up already? Wow.
Yep, there it is. A nice little card for Sjohn. Well, just decent stuff in hand. Not a lot of good targets for Temujin, unfortunately, and he's found 2 of them in the early game. Dirty Laundry as well, not a card he's able to easily use. Do you slap down Paperclip and go here? Maybe hope to hit a barrier? I don't know.
Maybe. I have a feeling that maybe you overdraw a little bit. You know that you can just simply pitch the Paperclip.
Sure.
Maybe you'll find a better card you can install or play at this moment in time. Worst case, you play Saw Set, and Paperclip goes to the discard pile.
Right.
So we could see him explore a little bit.
I think that's a decent line of play. It may be that Sjohn decides to go for the face check route, at least give himself some server to work with in this early game. But, yep, decides to just put down slums and feel content to hang out.
We're just going to hang out a little bit. We're just going to have a conversation.
Hey, we're just having a good time. Everybody's getting money.
Yeah.
Seems good.
Boom.
Draw for Sjohn. Nice Tsurugi there. That's a really solid piece of ice. It's going to do work. And a Brain Trust off the top. Is this something he feels like he can put down, or is blackmail threat just too strong?
Oh.
Wow.
That's neat.
We saw Jonathan yesterday with traps on traps on traps, and he has gone ahead and done that today with the Hokusai grid.
And Hokusai is not cheap to trash. It's 4, right?
It is 4 to trash. Of course, Sjohn having the blackmail and the bad publicity, of course. But, yep, he is installed Temujin there and is targeted R&D.
Oh, man.
All right, are we going to see the face check of death here for a 3rd time in this tournament season?
Oh.
And there it is.
He's definitely
That's Tsurugi.
Yeah.
I do think that, yep, Jonathan is choosing to spend 1. I think that is a great line of play. Could knock out some really important pieces out of Sjohn's hand.
Boom.
Rumor Mill.
Boom.
Temujin. Dirty Laundry. Solid hits
for
Jonathan there. Misses the 1 blackmail. Does Sjohn decide to access? We saw this hurt him.
It looks like he's electing not to.
Yep, elects to jack out and does not get that Temujin contract money.
Oh, I think you did. Okay, sure. They agree to work it out.
Yep. And Sjohn now with an I've had worse in hand. That's a really nice draw for him. Definitely what he wants to see.
Wow.
Oh, and Jonathan, the fetal AI was on top of the deck. And do you just slam this here? I think this is a really solid way to go.
And what's funny about this, if Sjohn had continued that run, it would have been game.
Oh.
It would have been game.
It would have been a repeat of this amazing Jinteki power to really stun the runner in these face check moments. And yeah.
Do you blackmail here?
Sjohn just has to card up, rather. Wow. Same old thing down.
Don't do it, last click. Ooh.
And blackmail. He's going in.
Sure. This could be painful, though. He's going to take 3, right? So first Hokusai, you take 1.
Yep, so Hokusai there, going to res. That is going to be net damage on the successful run. Sjohn with 3 cards in hand. Actually,
oh, wow.
I've had worse. Real smart play on Sjohn's part. Guarantees that hit. And then is going to go in for the fetal AI.
Now, unfortunately, Sjohn ended up drawing his net ready eyes. That would be, oh no.
Here we go, 2 net damage. And a Grimoire. Solid hit for Jonathan there.
I want to bring up something important here that I don't think they really noticed. I would have noticed, and I think other people in the stream noticed. When Sjohn drew those extra cards from his I've Had Worse, he did not shuffle his hand. You want to be really careful.
Wow. Yep.
because Jonathan could have focused just on making sure he trashed brand new cards.
Sure.
You got to be careful.
Also interesting to note here, Sjohn electing not to trash this Hokusai grid. That's going to give Jonathan the ability to put stuff in that remote and continue to threaten with net damage.
Right.
I wonder if that missing of the trigger of Solset Slums to get rid of Hokusai forever
that could have been dangerous.
Was dangerous.
Yeah. I think I think it probably would have been wise to trash it. It would have cost you 3 with your bad publicity, and it does remove it entirely from the game.
All right, Jonathan, I believe that is Jackson Howard in the remote there, continuing to just pressure Sjohn to make those blackmail runs. I think this is what you got to do against Valencia.
Yep. Force him to keep coming, and I don't think, as long as he's got that Mimic in hand, I don't see him running.
Yes.
I think he's got to slam that down.
So in the last few turns, I think both players are starting to really figure out what the other's deck is attempting to do. Between Jonathan seeing Temujin contract on the board from Sjohn and Sjohn noticing the Hokusai grid and the fetal AI, I think both players know what is and what is not the game plan of the other's deck.
I agree. Man, Blackmail just does so much work. So much work.
What a card. Sjohn does have the option to use that here. He elects to put down the Data Sucker, and with Mimic in hand, it might be that R&D is the place. So what are you thinking about right here now here is Sjohn? You've got a pretty decent board.
I think knowing you've got the Tsurugi in play and there's face check problems, I think the Mimic has to come out.
Yep.
You don't want to risk a scenario where the Mimic gets trashed because basically now you have to spend more time getting another copy. All right. So Sjohn attempts to fix his a little bit of agenda, not an agenda flood, but he definitely has more agendas than he would like.
Yep. And Brain Trust obviously going to be a great card for him to consider slamming in that remote. We saw those Brain Trusts do crazy work yesterday, getting him all the way to 6 points in that last game against Travis, and he could be considering doing a similar line of play here. Just the guessing game of, is it a snare? Is it not a snare? And finding the key moments.
Oh, that's so good.
Nice shock there. I wonder if he'll elect to put that in the remote as another tempting target for blackmail runs on Sjohn's side.
Yeah, I think you can hold on to one of the Brain Trusts for sure, right? You can hold on to one.
Yeah, I think you've got a lot of options here as Jonathan. With the Jackson, it's going to give him flexibility to use the right ice at the right time. He's got money and power.
Oh, that's interesting. So he kept both. He kept both the Brain Trusts.
Yep.
And he used...
Immediate use of Jackson Howard coming out from Jonathan. I think this is totally fair. He's already seen one Rumor Mill trashed on Sjohn's side. Does not want to risk that happening again.
Oh man, that reinforcing loyalty.
Yeah, enforcing loyalty shuffled back into his deck. That is a really nice card. That Temujin's sitting there looking real scared.
Yeah.
Unless Sjohn can get in and trash it for 1 credit, it is going to do some more work, especially with that credit differential between the players.
Yeah, because I mean the Temujin is basically going to pay if Sjohn can get the Mimic out, right? If he plays that now, the Temujin basically pays for the break for that Tsurugi. The run is effectively free.
Yes.
We might see Sjohn take that line of play here in his next turn. Well, okay, here we go.
And there we go. Install Mimic there with bad publicity. It's only going to cost him 3 real credits to get in. Net Ready Eyes, pretty nice. Guaranteed hit on I've Had Worse and Blackmail.
Ooh.
And that is 2 I've had worse down. And he's got some pretty solid cards in hand. This, I think, is the real interesting interaction between net damage and cards in the player's hand. As they start to get damaged, the value and quality of the cards in the hand get higher and higher.
Yeah.
And the risks that you're willing to take are less and less.
Gee, this is insane. Like the teeth in Jonathan's deck is doing so much work for him right now.
Oh,
It's putting a lot of the aggressive play on hold.
Yep.
And this is what we want. This is what we talked about earlier. We were talking about what could the potential for certain decks.
Yes.
We saw it earlier with Michael's game. We're seeing it now. Having kill options puts a pause on a hyper aggressive play with cards like Temujin.
Right. The mind games here are so strong, and Sjohn is really struggling, I think, to find footing in this game and find a decent line of play. He does have some good options, but yeah, it's tough. All right. Looks like Jonathan is making a really strong play here. He knows the Data Sucker is there. He has to sense the Parasite is on the way and elects to put the Yagura over R&D. I think that's a really good choice.
Yeah, he doesn't know if Sjohn has the Yogg. Sjohn doesn't know he needs the Yogg.
Well,
he did see it.
Yeah, he did just see Yagura off the top. I think that's a fair assumption there. But for a 1 credit piece of ice, I think it's worth forcing Sjohn to get Yogg on the table.
Yeah, there it is.
Yep, there it is for Sjohn. And he's going to head into R&D.
Here we go. Whew.
Wow, global food
right off the top.
Off the top. That is going to make it a 4-0 game in Sjohn's favor.
Now I think. Let me say what let's try to get in Sjohn's mental state.
Yes.
I think he wants to use that Parasite now. But I think you have to. I think you have to wait because you can't risk a run.
Right.
With less than 3 in hand.
Ooh.
Okay, and I think he sees the same thing.
Yep. Right, that Parasite is going to be so key. And you do want that on the table as soon as possible.
Hey.
And Jonathan finding some nice ice.
Oh, what was that? Was that vanilla? I think it was a vanilla he had in hand.
Yep, that is going to be a great gear check on his part. Jonathan going for the slam option.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Slam and jam. That's what you got to do.
So Sjohn with the Rebirth in hand, do you think this is the time, or is Rebirth actually worth more as a card in hand for damage?
There's not a whole lot of things for you to trash on. There's not a lot of things that Sjohn can trash that Jonathan plays.
Yeah. That
cost more than like 0, right?
Right.
Snares cost 0. Shocks are 2.
Yes.
And so the bad pub kind of takes care of that.
Right.
Oh, wow. And he elects to do a same old thing, blackmail on the remote.
Yep. So here he goes. Going to take a net damage from Hokusai. Solid hit with the David. That's going to be really handy. And he finds the shock. Oh, what a great line of play. And hits Parasite. This is a huge trash for Sjohn. This is going to keep his R&D alive for a few more turns.
Jeez.
And Shock, of course, out of the game because of self-set slums. Wow. That's quite good.
Shock is out of the game. It's gone from the game.
Yep. So Rebirth still alive. I think you're right that there really isn't a lot that he would trash Wizard Rise. I think the only argument you might be able to make is Ed Kim if he was worried about neural EMPs.
Yes.
But even then, I do think that's fairly risky, and I think he's just fine hanging out.
Oh, Jonathan's got the install advance.
Holy crap.
And he's trying. He's saying, hey, this is not Cerebral. Jedi Mind Trick.
Jedi Mind Tricks, here he goes.
These are not the agendas you're looking
Will
for.
Sjohn bite, or is he going to go for R&D?
I think he's going to bite.
He does have medium in hand.
He could bite.
There are a lot of tempting options. Oh, the mind games, they never stop.
Oh, boy. Okay, he says no.
Yep. He is fairly low on credits.
And
may just want to money up.
Maybe, yeah. Normally you don't draw last click, but versus when you know they have teeth, you think you
Right. I think this is okay for Sjohn to not challenge this score. Jonathan is on 0 points, so if it is indeed an agenda, it is not the worst thing in the world.
And this is rough. If Jonathan does not, we obviously can't score it.
Yep.
But I think now, I can't read. We can't read minds. But I think if I'm on the opposite side of Jonathan, if you don't score that install advance, That's not an agenda to me.
Right.
I mean, you could get me. You could get me, but I doubt it. I doubt it.
Yeah, I just don't know if a trap there is really in Jonathan's favor. He's not in a position where he's really threatening Sjohn that actively with anything nasty. Yeah, I think that's fair. It looks like Jonathan last turn, if you notice there, actually has asked Sjohn how many cards he has in hand, potentially making this remote look like a Ronin.
Oh, that's so smart.
Woo!
Guys, welcome. This is Netrunner.
Yes.
That's Netrunner, ladies and gentlemen.
This is mind games on mind games.
That is what you do. That's what you do.
Amazing.
Ouch.
All
that
right.
quicksand's annoying.
Yep.
Oof.
Sjohn is electing to run HQ, allowing for the res there on quicksand. Easily finds the paperclip, but that is going to build up over time.
It is. And I'm not sure. Does Sjohn still have a brain trust in hand? Jonathan, excuse me. Does Jonathan still have
I have to imagine. I haven't seen his hand recently, but there were two a while ago. And, yep, it looks like there are still two
there.
in hand. This may be a risk that is not going to pay off for him.
Okay.
Yep, celebrity gift there. Definitely not a card that Jonathan is eager to play.
Jonathan breathes. He's like, ah, yes. Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
Mind games on mind
It
games.
is a mind game.
Medium sitting in hand. Unfortunately, with a Grimoire trashed, not going to easily be able to install those.
And I think now officially the trap is done. I think it's officially done.
Unless Jonathan can get into Sjohn's head and really get that Ronin image hammered there,
Oof.
I just don't think it's worth.
And you know he's thinking, he's like, well, I've got the black
Sjohn
melon
checking.
hand.
Yep.
Maybe I should do it. Oh, he's thinking about it. He's thinking about it.
It's so much risk. It's so much reward.
What do you do?
What could it be?
Man. Wow. I think one. He has one.
Yeah. I think as the turns goes on, I think the potential for this
To be a
a trap is higher and higher, and really it's hard for Jonathan to make this a threat that Sjohn is going to take.
Yeah.
It's just tough.
Yeah. All right. So he didn't do it. So I think Sjohn is definitely watching. He's like, okay.
Yep.
If there's any turn where I have to believe this is a trap, or it's not a trap, it's right here.
Yep.
This one turn. And how does Jonathan respond? Does Jonathan respond with a filled? Does he just say, okay, look, you got me?
Yeah, this is the,
You got
this is
me.
the bluff
This is-
moment, right? This is the
Is that the brain trust?
yeah. So Jonathan
Right.
selected to go for the naked brain trust and continuing to advance this remote. He is sticking with his bluff, and who knows, it might pay out.
It might. I mean, it paid off yesterday. It
Yeah.
paid off yesterday. People
Sure.
did not want to just face check a snare. It is possible also. Sjohn rationalizes, hey, I'm not going to die from this. I might as well just take the hit to the face and move from game, right?
And that's true.
No, he says, hey, I want to play it safe.
Yep, R&D definitely a valid way to go. Is a more surefire path to victory, and for very few credits,
Yeah.
he can get in there and just continue to snipe those accesses.
Why no medium here, though? That's interesting.
Well, so he's run out of MU. Unfortunately, the
Oh,
Grimoire was trashed.
Wow.
Oh, global food off the top. Really a bummer for Jonathan. That is
That's
another agenda he'd really rather not
That's
see.
rough.
Gosh.
And if you're Sjohn here, you have to now definitely breathe easier. You probably think that you
Yep.
could play a little riskier because any agenda you see can probably just win before the bad stuff happens.
Absolutely.
So this is kind of rough.
Yeah, if you're in Jonathan's shoes, you obviously are going to get this brain trust score next turn, I think, with no problem. But now that you've done that trick once, can you pull it off a second time?
Yeah.
I don't know if Sjohn's going to let that fly.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jonathan has to score this here. But that's good. Wow, there was another one?
The third global food
Come
initiative
on.
off the top. What a bummer.
Come on.
All agendas, no snares.
Yeah, all agendas on
What's
snares, man.
happening?
That's rough.
Dang.
So we got us the game. Jonathan is on the board, though. He is on the board.
He is on the board, 2 points, not the worst. Still has brain trucks to spare, but definitely not ideal.
All right, he's going to run R&D immediately.
Yeah, I think
Surely
this
there's
is
not an agenda, right?
the easy line of play, but who knows? Here he goes. Hedge fund. Neither player rewarded for that. Yeah, I think Sjohn is really just content to hang out.
Do you check HQ? Oh, yeah, he does. He says, oh, and this could be it, because we know he has 2.
Yep, 2 agendas in hand. Not ideal for Sjohn. Sjohn, I think, content to take this risk.
Oh, and that's
and
game.
that is going to be game for
Wow.
Sjohn.
Wow.
Game 1. Finds the agendas. I think Jonathan in a tough spot there.
Yeah.
We basically saw every agenda in his deck.
Yeah.
And not a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, they all came out pretty quickly. His agenda density, he only runs 9.
Yep.
And I think total in that game we saw 7?
Yeah.
7 or 8? Yeah. I mean, that variance, man, sometimes
It's tough.
sometimes R&D is not so kind.
I got to give Jonathan props here. He really went for that gamble with the Overrider play, and I think he really sold it. He kept asking about John's card in hand. He kept advancing it.
Yeah.
It's a line of play that can pay off, but I think Sjohn at that point was in such a dominant position with his agendas and his board state that he was happy to just go for the safe route and
Right.
go to R&D.
Yeah.